Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christian Harrison, and I'm privileged to be facilitating the research seminar series of the School of Business and Creative Industries of the University of the West of Scotland. And this is our first seminar for the session. And we've had this seminar series for over a year now, and it has had a great turnout. And thanks very much for everybody that has been involved over time. And like I always say, it's great to have everybody here, and it's good for everybody to introduce themselves as well. So try to introduce yourselves via chat. Tell us where you're logging in from. I think for now, most people are in Scotland at the moment, but if you're in other parts of the world, feel free to use the chat. Introduce yourself in the best way that you can, either way. And unfortunately, of course, like I said earlier on, we lost our monarch, our queen, a couple of days ago. So it's one of the sad time in Scotland and of course in the UK as well. But of course we're trying the best way we can to see how we can proceed. And fortunately, unfortunately, I think there's a public holiday on Monday either way. But what we're going to do today is, of course, talk about something that is very, very important. And one of the things that we'll be doing, oh, thanks, Mary. Mary is introducing herself. And she's from accounting, so that's great. And she's interested in financial literacy, and that we'll be looking at today. Of course, proud to the loss of Her Majesty. One of the things that we started to experience was the cost of living was high. There was a high, of course, inflation. Companies were going bust. The energy cap was increasing. So much about how we can cope with the recession that is going on. So this has become a very apt topic at the moment. And it's apt for us as researchers and also as practitioners to know much more about financial education and planning and how we can manage our finances. And today, that is what this seminar is going to be looking at. Because with the current global pandemic, or it's hopefully is gone, it has become very important that we know how to manage our finances. What's the best way to do it? How can we budget? How can we manage this credit crunch that is going to happen or that has started happening at the moment, unfortunately? And we'll be looking at that today. No pressure, but we have an expert in the house. Her name is Dr. Enkeleda Lulaj. Thanks, Enkeleda, for accepting our invitation. When I reached out to her, she was happy and excited and said, "Don't worry, Christian, I will be here." And she's here today, and she'll be presenting the seminar in the next few minutes. But before she does that, I would, of course, want to introduce Enkeleda to everyone. Dr. Enkeleda Lulaj is an assistant professor at the Faculty of Management in Tourism, Hospitality, and Environment in the University of Haxhi Zeka, Peja-State of Kosovo. That's at Kosovo. That's very far from here. I think the time difference is like 1 hour or something. She has a Doctor of Science in Finance and Accounting Economy, and is also the co-founder of BORN, the Ambassador for Financial Evaluation, Ambassador for Women Tech, as well as the Ambassador for Research and Innovation. She's the country director of the International Young Society and country director of the World Voice International. She's a member of different editorial boards in different parts of the world. She's also has a great experience in international conferences as a supervisor, as a member of different scientific committees, a member of editorial boards, a session chair in universities, institutes, and various countries. She's a reviewer in several prestigious journals and in Web of Science and Scopus. She has a flair for economics, finance, accounting, teaching, research, and many other topics. She has been involved in different higher education institutions in the different parts of the world. So that's a snapshot of who we have in the house today. And it's great to have her here. And in the next few minutes, she'll be talking about financial education, planning and management, a necessity for well-being and financial stability. And after that, feel free to ask her questions because that's why we are here. So after that, we'll have her questions and answers, then we would draw it to a close. So thank you very much. I think I've spoken too much. So now it's time for Enkeleda to do what she came here to do. So thank you very much, Enkeleda.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Greetings to all of you, and thank you so very much for inviting me. Really, I am very honored and grateful to be here. Thank you once again, Professor Christian. Really, I'm very glad. And now I will share my screen. Can you see my screen clearly?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you once again. So I am Assistant Professor Enkeleda Lulaj from State of the Kosovo. Today I am going to talk more about financial education, planning and management. Just a moment. So what about this slide? So in this slide you can see the agenda. General information about budget education and the financial management, a new point of view, the change in the basic attitude, learn a special skill, because I will make a relationship between my two case studies or papers conducted in my country, conclusion and recommendation, question and answer. What next? So in this slide, you can see introduction, some contribution related to financial education, planning and management, effects of the recession on families and how to cope, importance of financial planning, what are the components of financial plan, make informed financial decision based on your personal circumstances and financial needs. What is a protection plan? Build a household's budget, money management strategies, money management tips to improve your finance, benefits of financial education, strategies as well, a financial planning process and financial decision making. How can a family be financially stable? Ability to avoid financial pitfalls. Case study number 1 and case study number 2. So what next? So in this slide, you can see some contribution related to financial education, planning and management. Example, the field of personal finances, including planning, consulting and financial importance, is a new and very important profession for the country's economy and financial sustainability, as well financial stability. So previous studies have shown that individuals are not very prepared for this new loads, and they often manage their finances very poorly. And what next? So in this case, researchers are doing more and more research related to personal budget management in order to identify the best methods to help increase the financial well-being of society. The same contribution example was made by the researchers Nagib and Free at Jacobs as well, that were, according to them, financial education is important not only for individuals or individuals' families, but also for society as a whole. And what next? So while the importance for education and financial management continues to increase according to Joe 2008, the situation, attitudes and financial behavior cannot be evaluated to the same extent. And many studies argue that the personal budget depends on the behavior of the individuals. Example, Hankins or Webley and so on, that which includes expenses and incomes divided into categories in the certain times. Periods, example, for weeks, for months, for years, and so on. So, and which must be regulated in accordance with reasonable circumstances. And firstly, individuals during financial budget planning need to analyze their current situation, choose the right alternative, and make decision about their financial goals and capabilities, controlling incomes as well, ensuring proper management and long-term financial stability. And the ideas from Gomez 2009 emphasize the importance of financial education is as a condition for providing knowledge, skills to adopt good money management practices, income generation, cost management, savings culture, debt repayment, and even for investment. However, there are so many research related to budget education, planning and management as well, but from early 1997, there are no absolute results on saving, considering that other factors, example, educational level or incomes, country economy or employment and so on, that affects financial budgetary education. And what next? So the another contribution related to financial education by Carlin 2009 analyzed the differences between people with lower and higher incomes. In this case, where they emphasize that people with lower incomes have no savings account, unlike the other group. And what about the example? What about the demographic factors? So the demographic factors have a big impact on saving money for retirement, and recommended that most young people who are working should save money due to new reforms that may come to retire. And but more about from Berheim and Hilgert's 2003 and Lusardi 2009 analyzed that marital status is the main factor because family responsibility makes individuals more careful in managing and financial budgetary education in order to have better financial stability and security for the future. But what about the practices related to financial education? So the practice of financial education management facilitates decision-making, information, savings, and planning for the futures. So what next? So in this slide, you can see effects of the recession on families and how to cope. Before I will talk more about these steps, I'm going to ask, for example, for one question: how does a recession affect households, especially with difficult time with pandemic COVID-19? Or what about the effects of the recession on families? So unfortunately, real estate values often fall during a recession, and foreclosure and short sales typically increasing, forcing many families out of their homes. Real estate can no longer be viewed as a safe investment during an economy downturn. And what about the effects? So recession have many effects on families, mostly negative effect. Fortunately, there are ways to combat these effects. So in this slide, you can see some factors related to the recession on families and how to cope. So example, what about job and employment? So job loss affects the stability of families and individuals. Our status, self-worth, health, and well-being can be drastically impacted by the loss of a job. But for this factor and other factors, we have so many tips and strategies. So example, in short terms may include filing an unemployment claim, borrowing money from friends or family and taking a lower paying job. Or in the long term, so a solution can include working closely with headhunters and recruiters to find a higher paying job, and going back to increase and to learn more about how to recuperate and how to example for job and employment. And what about family life? So the stress of not finding work and loss of income can damage interfamily relationships that can take years to mend. But we are also have some tips and strategies. Example, families can work together to cope with the changes brought on by an economic downswing. In fact, uh, um, a recession may positively impact on family because as families tend to stay home together and spend more time together. So instead of pricey nights at out restaurant, example, take the family to a local park for an evening picnic, or have a cheap family game night, or and so on. Or avoid hotels during a weekend trip in favor of camping in the woods instead of buying more video games. Take children hiking and fishing. And what about lifestyle change? So reduces income leads to reduced entertainment, dining, and extracurricular activity expenses. In this case, people cut back on the extras during a recession, so many families must make drastic change to their pre-recession lifestyle. But what about some tips or strategies related to these factors or lifestyle changes? So the lifestyle changes brought by a recession will include a period of adjustment. Families must allow themselves time to adopt and understand that children may not fully understand the financial implication affecting the family. In this case, talk with children about how things will change, and be realistic about expenses and outcomes. It is a great time to teach your kids about money management and investing. So family budgets may not accommodate short and long term and non-residential investment during a recession. In this case, families may put investment accounts on hold, hoping to play catch up and at a later date. But what about the tips related to investing? So it's very important during the recession. So using retirement funds to pay bills should be a last resort because of the retirement account tax penalties and the loss of future incomes. Business opportunities. So entrepreneurs may have a lack of funds available for borrowing or starting new companies, new business during a recession. But what about some tips or strategies related to business opportunities? This is this is likely not the right time to start a business, to start a new company, new business. If you have an idea for a new business, you may need to put it on hold and continue to research new ideas and look for investors and partners or business partners, but focus efforts on earning an immediate income to support the family. And education, many families cannot afford to send their children to college during a recession. And we have so tips or strategies related to education. So families may need to rethink college plans during a recession and should look into alternatives ways to pay for school in order to save money. And credit and debt. So during a recession, families must still pay the household bills and try to get out of debt. Bankruptcy, judgments, and late payments can all hurt your credit score. So also we have tips and strategies related to credit and debt. So learning, it's very, very important for all families that families should prioritize expenses and pay bills in order of importance. Some bills can be paid late, but other bills must be paid on time in order to avoid foreclosure, eviction, or property reposition. And what next? So important, so financial planning. In this slide, you can see some factors related to importance of financial planning. Example, income management, improved cash flow for better investment, enhanced return on portfolio, inflation, secured guarded retirement plan, and so on. But what about the factor number one, or income management? What is important related to these factors? And please keep in mind, because it's very important, one factor, financial planning is crucial, is that it can truly help you manage your money in the best way possible. So it can also assist you in developing a strategy that will assist you to calculating the number of resources needed for monthly spending. It can genuinely help you figure out how much money you will need for taxes and how much money you will be able to save from the specified amount. And what about improved cash flow? So income growth leads to an increase in overall retained earnings. Financial planning is essential, is very essential for the day-to-day operation of your professional and private life, where you must meet a variety of commitments as they arise. And for better investment, a smart financial plan considers your specific situation, risk tolerance, and long-term goals. It then assists you in making the best financial decision based on your needs and based on your objectives. Example, personal objectives or family objectives. And what about enhanced return on portfolio, financial decision, risk assessment, cash management, liability management, and goal planning are vital parts of financial planning. And in this case, how about inflation secured? So inflation has been adapted, the word's killer of purchasing power. Over the previous few decades, the value of money has plummeted dramatically In this foreseeable, it is only projected to worsen. As a result, it's critical to again organize your finances and for brighter and more secure future for your future or for the family future. In the end, garden retirement plan. So while attaining your family's objectives is common goal for a comfortable post-retirement existence. If you want to retire early, you should start investing as soon as possible because combating works best when money is invested for a longer period of time. So please keep in mind, because it's very important related to garden retirement plan. So it's usually a good idea to start investing early to achieve your life's objectives. And what next? So what are the components of the financial plan? As you can see in the slide, example, goal identification, or listing assets and liabilities, or cash flow and expenses, expense monitoring, or insurance planning, or monitoring and optimization. So what about goal identification, example, in short term or medium or long term? So short term goals that you want to achieve in the 5 next years are considered short terms. Example, settlement of antecedent debts, purchasing luxury or small assets. And what about the medium term? So become an entrepreneur or purchasing property and other goals with a high investment amount that you plan to fulfill during or in 5 to 10 years. And what about current liabilities and non-current or contingent liabilities? So debts that are to be selected in a short periods, example, 1 year in most cases. This is for current liabilities. And what about non-current liabilities? So these are long-term liabilities that are to be paid over a few years. And in the end, contingent liabilities. So occurring of liabilities depends on the outcomes to arise depending on the circumstances. So cash flow and expenses monitoring and income statement or bank account statements gives a complete overview of your income and your expenses. Insurance planning, you can see term 3 kind of insurance planning, example, term life insurance plan, or ULIP, or child plan. So what about ULIP insurance planning for your family? Example, this policy comes with 3 levels of benefits. One, insurance coverage, wealth, 2, wealth exception, and the 3 is task savings. And child plans, so being a parent, you may be under constant stress, worrying about your child's futures. Child insurance plans cover every stage of your child's life. Example, from higher study, foreign study, marriages, and so on. And what about the monitoring and the optimization? So it is the only way to confirm that your current plans are effective and growing in a positive direction, in a positive ways. And what next? So in this slide, you can see some how to calculate your example, income tax or insurance tax or ULIP or savings calculator or retirement and so on. So you should use such calculators before making any investment, as that will give you clarity on your savings and as well in your investment. So it's very important for all of this how to say tools to know more about how to calculate and how to increase your money and as well to savings your money. And what is a protection plan? We have so many protection plan, because in this slide you can see three protection plans. Example, protection for your family or peace of mind, reduce stress during difficult times. And what about example for protection for your family? So your family depends on you for your financial support. You work hard so they can have a decent standard of living. Protection plans come with assurance that the people who matter the most, you will be protected even if the unaccepted happens. And what about the reduced stress during difficult times? So in case of tragedies like injury to you or terminal illness, etc., you and your family face tremendous emotional as well as financial stress. And what next? So build a household budget money management strategies. As you can see in this slide, are 7 steps. Example, set goals, identify income and expenses, separate needs from wants, design your budget, put your plan into action, manage seasonal expenses looking ahead. Please keep in mind, because it's very, very important for all of us, ask yourself a few questions. Example, did I calculate my income correctly? Or did I calculate family income correctly? Or are my expense figures accurate? Or are everyone's income and expenses accounted for? Or another question, is my plan based on actual numbers or what I hope I can earn or spend? Or did I give it fair chance? Or do I need a professional advice for my personal budget or personal money? And please, it's very important. In this slide, you can see a template related to the goals, how to build a household budget and money management strategies. So you can see short-term goals, intermediate goals, and long-term goals. It's very important. As I'm a professor of finance, this is really important for all families and as well for all of us to set our goals. Example, what about the short-term goals within about a year? What are the objectives for you, for your family? Estimated cost, target date, monthly, and so on. And what about the intermediate goals within 5 years? What are the best objectives for your family? How to manage your money, your personal finance? Example, my objective is education, or another objective is or retirement, and so on. And long-term goals within 10 to 15 years or more. My objective is, example, new business, new idea, estimated cost, target date, monthly, and so on. Example, you can see identifying common expenses for yourself and your family. As you can see, for all for week number 1, 2, and so on. So dates, which dates, housing or households or groceries or living, transportation, healthcare, personal, eating out, entertainment or children, debt payments, savings, and so on. Also, you can see the monthly summary for week number 1, week number 2, 3, and so on. Example, what is budget for week number 2, or total budget for week number 2, 3, and so on. Example for housing, utilities, households, groceries, living. In the slide, you can see the total income and total expenses. Really, it's very important this template to know more about for our money, for our incomes or our expenses as well, and design your budget. Example for income, wakes, pensions, or commission or child tax benefits, and so on, and housing expenses, for example, for gas, for house, for rents, and so on. Living expenses, grocery, health expenses, insurance, and so on. And work expenses, example for license, lunch out or breaks, special professional clothing, and so on. Personal expenses, example for clothing or eating out or hair care, and so on. And children, example for clothing, shoes, gifts, school supplies, and others. And in the end, you can see payments, example for loans, for a student's loan, or for income tax and emergency savings, and so on. In the slide also you can see total for income and total for expenses. Manage your seasonal expenses. Really, it's very important how to increase our knowledge, how to manage our money. Example, seasonal expenses. Savings account for seasonal expenses, this sum or this date, and so on. Clothing, car repairs or gifts or travel and vacation, and so on. Money management tips to improve your finances. As I mentioned before in the slide, I will speak quickly for all of these factors. So, example, track your spending to improve your finance. Create a realistic monthly budget for you and your family. Build up your savings. Pay your bills on time every month. Cut back on recurring charges. Save up cash to afford big purchases, and start an investment strategy. What is the best way for start an investment strategy to your family or to yourself? And what about some benefits of financial education? We have so many benefits for financial education or financial literacy, but in this slide are included four benefits. Example, financial education prepares people for emergencies, or financial education invokes confidence, or financial education can help the individuals reach their goals. Financial education can prevent a devastating mistake, and so on. Also, in this slide, you can see some strategies to improve your financial education skills. Example, pay yourself first, or create a budget, or get your credit report, or check your credit score, invest in your future, and so on. And in this slide, you can see best budgeting apps for you. The 6 best budgeting apps of 2022, example, best overall, you need a budget, best free budgeting app, mind or best for cash flow, simplified by quicken, best for overspenders, pocket guard, best for building wealth, personal capital, best for couples, Zeta, and so on. Why should I pay myself first? So it's a good way to save for the future. Paying yourself first is a pillar of personal finance. The easiest things to do is to open a savings account, because not only do financial planners suggest it, but there are also plenty of books that prescribe it. Why should I pay myself first? And what about financial planning process and financial decision making? Example, the number one or step number one or factor number one, identify your financial situation for your family. What is your stability for financing your family or individuals? Determine financial goals, identify alternatives for investment, evaluate alternatives, risk evolution, put together a financial plan and implement, and in the end review, re-evaluate and monitor the plan. And in this, what about the step number one, or identify your financial situation? So as you can see, some sub-steps included in this step. Example, household budgeting or family commitments and living expenses. Are you single or married? Do you have children? What are their living and lifestyle expenses? And so many questions for how to manage your money, or task standing and strategies, how to manage tasks, are you living or work abroad, and so on, or other financial obligation. Example, emergency fund to cover household catastrophes, especially for this difficult time with pandemic COVID-19. And or another question, is your retirement just around the corner? Family funds reserves in case something happens with you, with your job or you. And what about the step number two, highlighting the financial goals serve as an important, very important, as an essential aspect of financial planning. Example, get married and initiate a family, or ensure your children get a good education, or make your reserves and investment task proficient, and so on. And the step number three, taking into account, example, more about your time frame or cash flow, as I mentioned before, and risk tolerance, current insurance coverage, task strategies, and investment goals. A range of ideas and financial planning alternatives would be presented in order to determine which one suits you the best or your family. And what about the step number four? Alternatives can be closed down based on the decisions you make. And example, the idea to carry on your education, a test, you cannot do a full-time job, decision-making thus stands, and an ongoing process that works side by side with your personal and financial situation. So lost opportunities as a result of your decision-making should always be kept in mind while analyzing the alternatives. And this is the step number five, or step number six. So this step of the financial planning process can be considered as an action plan where you will pick ways to achieve your short, immediate, or long-term goals. What are the goals for you and your family? Example, education or retirement, or and so on. And in the end, step number seven, related to strategy, how to increase and how to learn more about budget management. So you need to assess your financial decision periodically as a change personal or economic and social factors will require you to alter your decision to fit into your new situation. How can a family be financially stable? Example, follow a budget, analyze your lifestyle, as I mentioned before, or create a financial plan, as I mentioned as well before, plan to clear your debts, have an emergency fund, and so on. Ability to avoid financial pitfalls. So as you can see, some step factors, example, excessive spending or building spending. Sometimes what you think is a little spending here and there actually adds up to a pretty large sum of money. Or another step, how to ability to avoid financial pitfalls, not having a budget in place or having any planned period, or spending money on wants before needs, or living paycheck to paycheck, or not having an emergency savings. This is a case study, as I mentioned in before. This is the case study number 1. To learn more about, you can click on this link and to learn more about how to manage our money. Example, financial education planning and management. The purpose of this research, it's to provide a new approach to education and budget management as a necessity for well-being and financial stability. How important financial education is to respondent, or which variables are the best or not, which variables are interrelated, and is there a difference between the groups in most variables. Collection of data. The research was conducted through questionnaires with respondents from Kosovo in 38 municipalities, Western Balkan countries, example, Albania, Montenegro, Macedonia, and so on, and European Union countries. In this research are included 18 states. And the methods, cluster analysis and multidimensional measurement analysis. Hypothesis, as you can see in this paper, are 2 hypotheses. The main hypothesis, there is no difference between the observation groups related to budget education and budget financial management. Are the alternative hypothesis, there is a difference between the observation groups related to budget education and budget financial management. To learn more about the results and the discussions, you will learn in the next slide. So why education? Why advice? Why savings? Why planning? Why financial management? And so questions. Need financial education, or need financial advice, or need for planning and management? Countries, they identify variables. What identified feature does each group have? Think about if they are identified by financial advice, and which group needs financial advice in the variables. Example, Kosovo, or Western Balkan countries, or the European Union countries. And in this slide, you can see the variables, all variables included in this research, in this topic. Example, gender, age, profession, income, sufficient information to make financial budget decision, or awareness of the importance of financial assurance, proper planning for the budgetary financial future, saving money as an assistant after retirement, creating an emergency fund to overcome crisis, or meeting budgetary financial needs for 1 to 12 months in a case of loss of work or ability to work for a while, or another variables, registration of all transactions for budget incomes or budget expenses. Savings and investing is important for better well-being. The need for a financial advisor, budget practice and control. So the purpose of this hypothesis is to see if there is a difference in any of the observation, in any of the groups, cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3, in most of the variables, especially in education, financial education or financial literacy, and management variables, so that through differences of groups and recommendation coming out from NDS analysis to help individuals and family economies regarding the personal budget. So right choice, wrong choice. You can see some results for all variables. Example, what is important for item number one, that those emphasize that all three groups, cluster 1, cluster 2, and cluster 3, need to raise awareness of budget management, but at the same time, women can be good budget managers in the case of budget awareness. And what about example for item number 2? So Western Balkan countries and Kosovo emphasize that age is important for budget management. Then European Union countries, example Germany, Switzerland, Austria, and so on, Italy, and so on, emphasize that age is not important, but the budget awareness of the age group. And the highest value is in the European Union countries, while Kosovo and Western Balkan countries have less information about making financial decisions. And also you can see the results for the items 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on. So the higher value for the importance of financial assurance has the European Union countries than Kosovo, my country, and Western Balkan countries. Regarding saving as an assistance after retirement, the highest value has the countries of the Kosovo than the European Union countries. But what about the emergency funds? So the emergency fund in extreme cases are more liked by the European Union countries than by Kosovo and Western Balkan countries. And what about the related to item number 3, or the need for advice, financial advisor? So the need for a financial advisor in the 3 surveys, Kosovo, European Union countries, and Western Balkan countries, has the same opinion. And practice and smaller budgetary financial control have Western Balkan countries, example Albania, Montenegro, Macedonia, and so on. And the higher value has the European Union countries. And as you can see, the statistic in this case is close to 0, which means that the choice of these variables is appropriate to give recommendation. Conclusion and recommendation related to case study number 1. So what should households do in the future? Both genders need to increase budget awareness, that they need a financial advisor during the budget cycle, and as a recommendation, improvement or foresight and future thinking for money. And also it's the case study number 2. So the purpose of the collection of data, the interview was conducted through a questionnaire for all households. This is all in my country, in Kosovo. So in this case, 5,000 families or 5,000 people were interviewed. Financial education, savings, planning, and management, and methods, factor analysis, and regression as well. To learn more about the results and decision, you will learn in the next slides. So please, it's very important for savings, planning, and management related to financial education or financial literacy. So remember that a family can be covered by debt by buying luxury items, car, house, or clothing of expensive brands, and so on. And do not become one of those families that do not save for emergencies just to look beautiful in the eyes of others. Please, it's very important for all of us so to make good financial behavior in relation to savings. Surround yourself with friends and family that allow you to be yourself. The key is to identify what you are doing with your money. And what next? So in this slide, you can see three factors. Factor number one, financial behavior related to savings. Factor number two, savings fund based on financial behavior. In the end, implication or non-savings due to financial behavior. So the hypothesis, the main hypothesis, saving factors and financial behavior are not important, do not have a positive effect on households for emergencies. And the alternative hypothesis, savings factors and financial behavior are very important or have a positive effect on households for emergencies. So in this slide, you can see the results for this variables, example for income, gender, periods, member of the family, employment, age, and so on. And based on the results, so in the employment variables, the largest answer was given by full-time employees in a percentage, 41.6%, or in the gender variables, women gave the greatest answer in a percentage of 60.8%, and so on. And the right choice, wrong, right choice and wrong choice. So results related to the factor number one. So the results explain that 91% for the factor number two, or financial behavior in relation to savings are depends on the independent variables. Example, savings and investment are important, or unspent money savings such as deposits, non-withdrawal of money from accounts, or savings related to the financial situation, or savings for health and emergency savings fund. But the beta coefficient shows that all variables are very, very important in this model, but the variables which is most important in this model is savings related to the financial situation. So the value of P is less than the significance level 5%. So the main hypothesis is rejected and accepted B1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And what about the results related to the factor number two, or savings fund based on the financial behavior? So the results explain that 91% for these factors, saving funds based on financial behavior depends on the independent variables, or survival savings, unspent money savings, emergency saving funds, savings related to the financial situation, and so on. But the beta coefficient shows that all independent variables are very important in this model, but the variables which is most important is the emergency savings funds. And the results for the factor number three, or implication or non-savings due to financial behavior, the results explain that 96% this factor depends on the independent variables, or investment in luxury items, or lack of awareness about savings, and increasing concerns in situation of extraordinary and excessive giving of money to family. The beta coefficient shows that all independent variables are very important in this model, but the most important are the variables excessive giving of money to family or friends. As a conclusion and a recommendation, you can see for results for three factors, example key MO, and as a recommendation and conclusion for the case study number two, saving factors and financial behavior are very important, have a positive effect on households for emergencies. Starting from the literature, research, documents, reports, data methodology, and findings, prove that the alternative hypothesis has a positive effect on households. In some variables where the tests were positive but with a lower value, households should take into account the recommendation of the research in order to further encourage financial behavior in relation to savings, especially for emergencies. So the main findings is the lack of financial behavior to save for emergencies. And in this slide, you can see the literature related to this topic. And in the end, learn something new every day. If there is one thing I have learned is you can write in the chat, and thank you so very much for having me. It was really a great pleasure. If you have any question, please feel free to ask me. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Enkeleda, for that. I had a good time. It was great to see how the practical part of trying to keep your budget. One of the things that I got there when you were saying, try to ensure that you don't spend more than you have. I'm like, oh, maybe I might be one of the culprits for that. I think I tend to spend more than I have. But either way, it's good. I think the practical perspective was great. And of course, linking it back to theory and the 2 case studies that you are able to present, trying to show how you've been able to apply that. So thank you so much for the very informative and interesting presentation. But of course, I can see some people clapping already for you, like Tommy and others. But now it's left for us to ask questions. So if you have questions for Enkeleda, we have 24 minutes really, so we have time. So do you have questions for Enkeleda? Any questions at all? Practical questions, comments, feedback, or anything that you want to ask before we continue? Okay, I think maybe wants to ask a question. Okay.
I could ask lots and lots of questions, but I'll choose one at the moment.
Okay.
I guess a practical issue also is that getting financial education is difficult for a lot of people. I don't know what it's like with you, but in our country, until it's not generally taught in schools, and yet there is an expectation that people are informed about these choices. So how do you solve this? You know, where you are, are there any family education initiatives or something, or what's happening with you to improve financial education?
Thank you very much, Mary. So, Enkeleda?
Yes. Thank you so very much, dear Mary. It's a very interesting question. So as I mentioned before, in my country, in my perspective, we need to learn more about how to manage our money, because in my country, there is no information how to make a decision for our best way, how to increase our money, or how to learn more about, or to increase our knowledge related to our money. So it's the same in my country, because we need to learn more about for this topic, because it's very important, and especially for this difficult time with a recession and pandemic COVID. So I think we need to learn and to increase our knowledge, and to share our knowledge to others, how to increase and how to savings for difficult times.
Okay, thank you very much, Enkeleda. Maybe is it okay with you? Would you have other questions as well?
Yeah, I would definitely agree there. And in our country, for example, if you look for a financial advisor, often they will say they wish to kind of take control of your finances, and then they will charge you for perhaps 1% of the amount that you wish to invest in something. So you don't really learn, they just manage it for you. So I think this is an additional problem that we have in trying to improve general financial education. I don't know if that is similar also where you are.
Yes, it's similar in my country as well. It's really similar because as I mentioned, and it's we need to learn more about for money and budget literacy, because my country as a new country and need to cooperate with other countries, other peoples to increase our knowledge related to finance, and example for savings, for retirement, for insurance, education, and so on.
Thank you very much, Enkeleda. So do we have more questions for Enkeleda, or any questions for her, or does Mary have more questions? Because I know Mary, of course, this is your area of expertise. So I know you can ask questions from morning till night. So maybe let's see how other people. Any questions? Anybody that wants to ask any questions? Practical. Okay, Isir. You're muted. I think that's one of the most common words, isn't it?
Very sorry. Yes. Thank you, Enkeleda, for that session. My question is, again, I'm quite new to the entire credit system in the UK. I mean, I've been in the UK, but this is the very first time I come as an employee. And one of the things I've sort of found difficult was to understand the credit system and the kind of different sort of financial mechanisms that exist in different countries. So is there a kind of a global norm in terms of if you are trying to find a way to, okay, how to budget yourself or to understand the entire, maybe the credit system and things? I know it's very complicated and it can be a subject on its own, to be honest, but what are the kind of steps for somebody who wants to get, a basic idea of what's going around with your finances and how to plan out? You want to be a little proactive. Sometimes you do certain things and you realize, oh, I should have done those things to improve my credit score, whatnot. So is there anything that generally, I mean, anywhere people can really look out for if they are to have a basic level understanding of their finances and the credit system, for example?
Thanks very much, Isir, for that. I think that question is something that everybody wants to find out. How can we improve our credit score? How can we improve our credit rating? How can we ensure that we can get more debt, isn't it, sometimes? But that was good. So I think good one. Enkeleda, can you?
Thank you, Isru. Sorry for the mistake in pronounce.
No, that's perfect.
Based on my experiences in my country, in Kosovo, the credit score is very, very higher. So it's very difficult, for example, for students how to get found for education or for another opportunities for how to increase their knowledge and how to get more information for this points of view. So my recommendation for my country especially is the rate of interest for credits are very, very higher. Example for personal credits are 16%. It's very, very higher because we are a new state, as I mentioned before, and economic development is a country in transition, and we need to work together and to increase our economic development in Kosovo, example. So it's very difficult as well at my country for this question. So it's very interesting, your question, and thank you once again for great question.
Okay, I think let me just add to what Isir was trying to say. Are there any books that could help? I think one of the things I was trying to say. Are there books that could give us a basic understanding of how we can do that? Are there books? I know you suggested apps. So do you think the apps are good enough, or is it the apps that you think would be useful? Are the apps okay?
Yes, in these apps, as I mentioned before, are very, very interesting to learn how to score for credits or another issues, and are free, these apps, and also has many books related to financial literacy and financial education. So I think it's it's very useful to learn more about this topic because it's very interesting for all of us.
Okay, thank you very much, Enkeleda. Of course, the slides will be shared to everybody here, so those apps will be useful and available. And I think Lewis is also giving us more insights as well. Lewis is saying, specifically for the UK, in the UK Money Saving Expert website, is a wonderful resource to assist people to understand all aspects of financial education in the UK. Lewis, thanks very much for that as well. At least that gives us a more local view of it. And she has put it there as well, so that's good. And UWS has a money advice resource available. Good. Well done, Lewis. Like you have everything around you, so that's good from Lewis as well. So it gives us Enkeleda is giving us a global insight, while Lewis is giving us a more localized insight. So I think everybody's benefiting from that. So that's very well done. So any other questions for Enkeleda? Any questions for Enkeleda or any insights, feedback, anything you want to say? This is the time you want to know more about your finance, how to handle it. Don't be shy. Maybe you spend money like I do, but no, I'm not bankrupt yet. But in case you're having any issues about keeping your money, this is the time to ask. So please do.
Thank you once again. Really, it was a great pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, I think Mary wants to ask a question.
Quite a lot of studies have found a difference between men and women in terms of their financial knowledge, and women having a lower level. But I'm interested because studies from former East European countries seem to show them sort of more on a level. Maybe things are changing as well, because your study didn't seem to show such a difference. You didn't find a big gender difference in people's financial knowledge and abilities then? Did you find, I mean, you seem to find women were quite good at budgeting in your study, is that right?
Just a moment, I will also share my screen, just a moment. Dear Christian, that's a great question, just a moment. Because in my country, the women are very clever and related to just a moment. I will share the case study number 1. Okay. Can you see my screen? To the item number 1 example, gender, you can see the results. Those emphasize that all 3 groups need to raise awareness of budget management, but at the same time, women can be good budget managers in the case of budget managers. This is from my side in my country. So the women are the good budget managers related to savings and to increase their money and financial literacy.
That's very interesting. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, one of the things I noticed, and thanks Mary for saying that, because of course going back now to the research perspective, I know you said about the gender thing. I think when Enkeleda was talking, you spoke about in Germany, it did not matter, the age did not matter at all about the financial education compared to other countries. But in Germany, the age didn't matter. So, but in other countries, the age mattered, isn't it? But why do you think? Maybe just me asking, why do you think age didn't matter in those countries?
In the 3 groups, all age have to increase their awareness for finance in the Western Balkan countries, in Kosovo, and the European countries. Example, as you mentioned, in Germany, Italy, Switzerland, and so on, because this is the survey conducted with families in all 3 observation or 3 groups.
Okay. Anyway, thanks for that. We're just exciting, but that's what research is, isn't it? Research would inform, and it was just great to know that there were different. Of course, I would think it's a cultural thing, the way we manage our finances, the way we I think some cultures are more conservative, some cultures are more adventurous with the way they handle their finances, and we tend to see. So maybe in future studies, we might want to do maybe a cross-cultural comparison, try to see what makes Christian more spendthrift than Mary. So maybe something that we might want to go and find out in next research. But it's great to have you. Of course, I don't want to spend so much time. But
if I can, dear Christian, I think in the future we will make a research conducted in these two countries related to financial literacy or financial budget education. Example, Scotland and Kosovo.
Good. That would be great. I think it's worth it, and it's going to be good. And at least will give us more insight about how the two nations work. By the way, thank you so much, Dr. Enkeleda, for a very vibrant and informative presentation. It was great to have you. And on behalf of course, the School of Business and Creative Industries, we'd like to thank you specially. And of course, thanks everyone for attending. Thanks for staying put for the session. I know it's a very busy time with the students and all that, so I get it, but it's great. And thanks for all the feedback. I can see from the feedback from the chats, everybody really enjoyed your presentation. So thanks everyone for coming. And of course, in the next 2 weeks, we'll be having another of this that'll be looking at digitization within businesses as well. So watch this space. So thank you very much and have a nice day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.